So in the last episode, I've mentioned the usage of ND filters. As I promised, in today's video, I'm gonna introduce to you guys the magic of ND filters and how can it change your footage from this to this. And if you're new here, this channel is all about filmmaking, photography, gear reviews, and tutorials about phones and computers. And with that being said, let's get started. The neutral density filters, or the ND filters, are essential piece of gear for filmmakers shooting outdoors. These special filters can reduce the amount of light that passes through the lens. It's essentially a darkened piece of glass that is designed not to change anything but the quantity of the light that passes through it. Other factors such as the color of the lights or the polarization of the lights should not be affected. This allows more cinematic effects such as using wider aperture or the longer shutter speed in bright daylight or anywhere that has a lot of available light. But why you want less light to enter your lens? Because when you're shooting videos, it's a lot different than you're shooting photos. When you are taking pictures, you can always crank up your shutter speed to compensate the bright daylight. But when you are filming videos, your shutter speed or the shutter angle needs to obey the 180-degree shutter rule to create the proper motion blur on your image. Which means you need to make sure your shutter speed is always double of your frame rate in the most of the circumstances. And you need to maintain that shutter speed in basically the rest of your clip. If you want to know more about shutter speed or what you want to use the 180-degree shutter rule, you can watch my last video where I explain the video exposure triangle and how to use them. I will put the links down below. So when it's way too bright out here, you can always close down the aperture, but it brings everything in focus, which makes your image less engaging. Then you decide to put your ISO in the lowest, and then you find out that your image is still too overexposed. So the only way to control your exposure is to speed up the shutter speed, but that ruins our normal motion blur. We do not want the word motion blur to distract our viewers or make our viewers uncomfortable. So you see, when the exposure triangle is locked, there is nothing that we can change the exposure from the camera itself. So it's a time to use ND filters to control amount of light that pass through the lens. So till now, you probably know that you need ND filters when you are shooting videos. So now let's talk about what kind of ND filters that you can buy. So the ND filters usually comes with different mounts. There's a round screw mount and there's a square mount filter that you can slide into a mount holder. If you want to mount a round screw filters on your lens, you need to make sure the filter size is the same as the caliber of the specific lens you have, which means the size of the filters should same as the front element of the lens. And then you can check the size of your lens by looking at in front of the lens element, like right here. Or you need something called step-down rings to adapt the filters to your lens. Remember, the smaller filters cannot use step-down ring to adapt the bigger lens. So if you want to buy ND filters for all of your lens, please buy the biggest one to save your money. And there's a square ND filters that has shape of a square instead of a circle. And the advantage of the square ND filters is that you need to only buy one filter for any size of the lens. And the image quality you get is usually better than the round screw-on filter. And the square filters have fixed ND stops, which means it has clear and exact stop for the amount of light that it's gonna stop. And the neutral density is unchangeable. By the way, you can always overlay your fixed ND filters to get more neutral density. And there's a special kind of ND filters called the graduated ND filters. It has a graduated blend through the glass, and this blend is from clear to neutrally colored gray. And the effective density of this gray increases, thereby blocking out more light. And we can use this type of ND filters to shoot some landscape, because the top layer is blocking the highlight from the sky. So that gives us better dynamic range like image. And the last one, for our individual creators or the small team, we can use something called the variable ND filters. This type of filters can change the ND stops by rotating the front layer of the filters, like this, which is more convenient when you need to do some run-and-gun shooting. I cannot stress more how much time it saved me, because when the lighting condition changes, I don't even need to touch the camera. I just need to rotate the variable ND filters to change my camera exposure. And the downside of variable ND filters is that it might reduce the sharpness of your image and might create some vignetting or weird cross line on your image. Beware that the quality and the price are quite different on any kind of filters. The bad ND filters can create high color difference or the vignetting or the ghosting on your image. Beware of that. Although the ND filters is very small and inexpensive compared to all of those expensive camera lenses, but it can really create massive difference on your image. And that's pretty much all you need to know about ND filters. If you want to stop there, that's totally fine, but in my channel, I only satisfy when I dig into the bottom of the things. So in the next episode of ND filters, I'll teach you guys the variable ND filters mechanism, how to read and understand ND stops, how to choose ND filters, and what things you need to look out when you are using one. So stay tuned and subscribe for more useful content like today. If you like this video, please smash that like button. If you have any questions, please list things down on your notes and comment down below, because I will read and answer every single comment you guys have. And don't forget, stay creative.